everyone, and happy Monday. Welcome back inside the UC Health Training Center for today's edition of Broncos Now. Coming up on today's episode, we'll hear from head coach Nathaniel Hackett as he reflects on Sunday's game. Plus, Broncos lead writer Aric DiLalla joins the show to take a more in-depth look at the Broncos win. All that and more coming up. The Broncos got their first dub of the season at home on Sunday, a 16-9 win over the Houston Texans. And it was not the prettiest win, but a win's a win. Head coach Nathaniel Hackett spoke to the media today and addressed some of the game management and operation miscues that we saw on Sunday.
When it comes to the operations, that's something that we're talking about quite a bit. There's a lot of things. We got to make sure the communication is clear and concise. I need to do better at making decisions faster and quicker and getting that information to the quarterback and being on the same page with him. So that's stuff that we're talking about this morning all the way to this evening and making sure that it's got to improve. It starts with me and then getting the proper information that I need. I get excited. I'm a little aggressive at times, and then sometimes that might not be the right decision. And so I just need to be sure that all the right information's given to me at the right time so we can make the right decision for those. And that's just got to be better. When it comes to Russell and I think it's just going to be a continual growing process. It's all about Russ. Want to be sure that he's comfortable and he's feeling good, and I'm getting the play as fast as I can to him. And we want to do what's right for him. So I think that's going to be something that we're just going to grow as the season goes on.
And the offense continued to struggle in the red zone again. The Broncos are 0 for 6 in the red zone in 2 games. Head coach Nathaniel Hackett took responsibility for it today.
Yeah, first and foremost, we got to make sure we have the best plays called. And I think that always starts with me. I want to be sure that we always have the best things. And we got to make sure that we're giving the ball to our playmakers, whether it's, a Cortland, a Javonte, Melvin, any of those guys. And I just want to be sure that we're continually getting the right schemes for down there and then executing it properly.
And on the other side of the ball, the defense had a dominant performance versus the Texans on Sunday. In total, they've had 5 forced fumbles so far this season. Coach Hackett details how much of a priority that's been for the defense so far.
We talk a lot about the ball. That's something that we're always talking about, both taking care of it and getting it. And the defense has had a lot of opportunities to get that thing out. And, at one of these points, it's going to fall to us because, they're doing a great job getting around the quarterback and getting it out.
Looking at the past 2 games, Coach Hackett said that all in all, it's about organization and communication.
It's about organization and communication. And in those moments, it happens so fast. And I think that the process of what we do and every single thing we do is a process up to getting to game day, during game day. Everything is process. And we just need to tighten that process up so we can make better decisions faster.
Now let's take a look at today's injury update. Great news for the Broncos wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, who exited Sunday's game with a rib injury, and cornerback Pat Surtain, who also left the game with a shoulder injury, are both day-to-day. Coach Hackett said they thought those injuries might have been worse, so they're excited they are day-to-day, and they're not sure if they'll play this weekend, but they're crossing their fingers that they will. Coach Hackett also gave an update on Josie Jewell and Billy Turner. They are also both day-to-day, and Coach Hackett said he's hopeful they will both practice this week. Now let's welcome Broncos lead writer Aric DiLalla into the Broncos podcast studio here to take a more in-depth look at Sunday's win. Aric, appreciate you joining me on Broncos Now today.
You got it.
Yeah. Well, Broncos got the win at home on Sunday. Not the prettiest win, but a win's a win. Aric, just to start here, what were kind of some of your main takeaways from this game?
Yeah, let's start with the fact that the Broncos did win. Yeah. It's important to remember. It didn't look pretty. I think the Broncos expect more from themselves. I think fans obviously expect more, but it was a win, and that's critical because you look back and you look at last season, there were plenty of teams that started 1-1 and made the postseason. No team that was 0-2 made the playoffs, and I think you have to go back to 2018 to find a team that went 0-2 and went on to make the postseason. Now, obviously, there's a lot of teams that go 0-2 are not good, so right. There's that part of it. But the teams that fall into a hole, it's hard to dig yourself out of that. Obviously, the Broncos have some tough games coming up here, starting with the 49ers this week. So it was really important for the Broncos to get that win. So that stands out to me, number one. Yeah. And then, I'm sure we'll talk more about this, but offensively, They really struggled without Jerry Jeudy. The red zone continued to be an issue. Getting the plays in time and not having kind of these delay of games or late play clock situations, that hurt them offensively, along with all sorts of other penalties. I believe 8 offensive penalties that hurt them. And then defensively, what a stellar performance. The defense is the reason the Broncos won this game. That and Russell Wilson and Courtland Sutton finally able to put something together there in the fourth quarter. The Broncos won this game, and they were able to make the plays they needed to, but there's so much to clean up. They've got to be a lot better if they're going to beat a team like San Fran this weekend.
You mentioned, the offensive struggles in the red zone, too many penalties again. Denver was finally able to find the end zone in the fourth quarter, that touchdown from Aric Saubert. What do you think maybe changed in the fourth quarter, Aric? And how do you think the team really builds upon this performance? As you mentioned, we got some tough matchups coming in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think the way the Broncos were able to score is just the defense kept giving them chances. Yeah. And, they had good field position and a lot of those opportunities. So I think it was kind of just a numbers game at that point. You were bound to the way you were moving the ball at times, I think, find success. Before Jerry Jeudy went out, I think the Broncos averaged more than 7 yards a play. That fell below 4 yards a play without Jerry until the end of the third quarter. And so I think it took some time to figure out, hey, what do we really want to do here? What's the way to find success? So that was part of it. And then just the fact that Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson, and you're never out of the game as long as you have him. Obviously, a blown coverage helped on that 35-yard completion to Courtland Sutton on 3rd and 16. That was probably the turning point in the game, the fact that they were able to pick up that long third down. But they just stayed with it. They were persistent. As Russell Wilson said, they didn't waver, and that was critical. As far as building on it, Cindy, I don't know how much you want to kind of replicate what happened. Yes. Mm-hmm. I do think you're still seeing them get chances in the red zone, and if they're able to punch those in for touchdowns in those 2 opportunities, we're talking about a different game. But still, only 2 red zone opportunities, that's not good enough. You need more than that, especially against a team like the Texans. And so they've just got to clean things up, whether it's guys not dropping passes, whether it's not having these penalties that are just hurting the Broncos for no reason. You get a big play and then there's a chop block and it comes back, or you get a play and there's an unnecessary roughness and it comes back. Those are the sort of preventable things that the Broncos can clean those things up. They've moved the ball well at times. I think Russell will play better than he did, for the first 3 quarters. And obviously, like I mentioned, he was hurt by those drops, but they've just got to clean a lot of things up. Good news is we know the potential is there. We just haven't seen it kind of fully executed yet.
Definitely. You mentioned Courtland Sutton. I think he was the positive of this offense coming out of this game. He posted his 5th career 100-yard game. Had 7 catches for 122 yards. What was it about his game that was working so well on Sunday? What did you see from him?
He just stepped up. He stepped up to that big moment, and I think he talked after the game, you want to be that guy that on 3rd down and 4th down your quarterback goes to you. He said that's what elite wide receivers are. They're those guys that they make plays in those moments, and I think we saw Courtland rise to that occasion. He had to without Jerry Jeudy there, and no other receiver had more than 2 catches for 20-something yards. So clearly the Broncos, they needed Courtland Sutton to have that game, and he did. Going into Monday Night Football tonight, he's got the 5th most receiving yards in the league. He's on pace to smash his career highs. He's already got 190-something receiving yards. So he's playing really well. He's the type of guy you thought he would be with Russell Wilson. We knew how much potential he had. Now he's realizing it. And I just continue to think that we'll see big things from Courtland Sutton this year.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's look at this defense. They certainly came to play on Sunday, Aric. They kept Denver really in the game, kept the Texans out of the end zone the entire game, had 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Those being from Draymond Jones, Randy Gregory. What were just kind of your main thoughts from this Denver defense? Yeah,
they're rolling right now. Yeah. And Draymond Jones said that Giro Evero's top 3 defensive coordinator in his mind right now. He's calling really good plays. The Broncos are executing. They're not giving up these back-breaking down-the-field plays, certainly against Houston. And when there is a completion, I think in the fourth quarter there was a 30-something yarder to start a drive. The Broncos buckle down. They get a stop. They get a sack. Or, there's a big pass breakup. So they're finding ways to play complementary football within the defense where if the defensive line doesn't have a great play, well, the secondary's picking them up. And if the secondary doesn't have a great play, well, the defensive line's there to make a big play. And so they're playing really well. They're all complementing each other. And now 6 straight quarters without allowing a touchdown. It's not like Houston's offense was a juggernaut by any means, but this defense did what it was supposed to do. When Houston got inside the 10-yard line, they made a couple of big plays. to keep them out of the end zone. And that was a big moment because if the Broncos go down a touchdown there, I think the game has a little bit of a different feel than just being down 9-6. So that was a really big play. They're playing as well as you could expect. They're going to face a tougher test this week against San Francisco. Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously, a really proven veteran quarterback who knows what he's doing. That Kyle Shanahan offense tests you a lot, but so far they've been everything you could ask for.
Well, a couple injuries, like you mentioned, with Jerry Jeudy. He left the game with a rib injury. Pat Surtain also left the game with a shoulder injury. I mean, two key guys there, Aric. What do you think these injuries are going to mean for the wide receiver room and the secondary moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how things kind of develop here moving forward. The Jerry Jeudy one, I think, might be more critical in the short term just because the defense has played really well. And Ronald Darby, I thought, played a really nice game. He played well against Seattle as well. K'Wan Williams has been good. And so and Damari Mathis, of course,
stepped up,
came in and he played pretty well, had an end zone PBU. So I think you look at the defense and you think, okay, well, hopefully they can survive this. I mean, Deebo Samuel is going to be a tough test.
Yeah.
You've got Devontae Adams in a couple weeks. So hopefully Pat's back for those, but we'll see. But I think the defense can maybe survive there, whereas the offense struggled in week one a little bit, even with Jerry on the field. And so without him, now you're going to need a big game from KJ Hamler. If he's able to play this week, we'll have to see. And so to me, just you got to get this offense going at some point. You got to be that explosive group that you think you can be. And so if I'm the Broncos, I'm hoping Jerry Jeudy can come back soon.
All right, last one for you here, Aric. What do you think's the mindset this week? What would your mindset be this week if you were on the field?
Yeah, I think the guys have to realize that, one, you can be happy about the win. You can feel fortunate that you won because it's always, you'd rather make corrections after a win than a loss. But I think guys have to realize this caliber of play or, the level they've been playing at with this many mistakes, as they start playing some of these better opponents, it's not going to cut it. And you've got a big-time matchup this week against the San Francisco 49ers, a really good football team, went to the NFC Championship last year, has been to a Super Bowl with this quarterback, with this coaching staff. This is a good football team. You're going to have to bring your A game to win this one this week. And so be happy that you won the game, celebrate that you're 1-1, and then get ready to go because you've got to be better this week.
Yep. All right, we'll see what happens this week. Aric, appreciate your time and your insight.
Thanks, Cindy.
Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Broncos Now. Broncos Country, thanks so much for tuning in today and every day. I hope you'll meet me right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube tomorrow evening for another episode. I'll see you all then.